As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission. I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains, haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. I'm never gonna give up, fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHH-LP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
It's a blessing to have several mighty gents kind of weigh in. It's feasible to this today that we'll have Clifton Graves and Kevin Staten, yourself, Deshaun Robinson, Malik Russell, Jimmy Jones, and possibly even Fred McKinney kind of share your insights. And again, the format is that folks will kind of share for 4 or 5 minutes. And we know how we go. Sometimes it's Sankofa time, Eastern Coast time, Western Coast time. So I'm going to try to provide some Sankofa time leeway, but the bell will be rung after maybe 5 minutes or so. And then we'll take the remaining 4 or 5 minutes for folks to kind of for maybe 10 minutes actually for the hour show for folks to kind of comment and share. I was asked, George, what's my intention or what's my expected outcome? And I really mentioned to folks that it's really just a collective communion, and let's see what emerges from the discussion. So I certainly am not here to waste people's times, but I'm really glad that folks found the topic to be somewhat relevant for their lives. How have you spent your day?
Staying cool, Tom.
Well,
staying out of the sun, staying cool, and preparing.
All right, and even staying cool and has a kind of metaphysical connotation, because we are definitely the globe is on fire. We talk about global warming, but and that's really the purpose of this kind of discussion, George, is that we can kind of hone in on really using words that describe the reality rather than sugarcoating things. And so the globe is on fire. We talk about global warming, but we are on fire. And how do we put out that fire in terms of the, increased temperatures and carbon dioxide, et cetera, and the fire that's kind of disrupting our souls. So staying cool is an objective that, circumvents the particular season of the year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is it? Was it last? I'm here, Tom. I'm just off camera. Last summer was the hottest summer on record. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this summer.
Well, and again, for you and I to say that so casually, and for the world to know it, but still as we speak, people are in the airplanes, driving the cars, burning fossil fuels. And if you think of Al Gore's efforts for 20 or so years and to mitigate these issues, I just want to let some more people into the room.
And we know a lot of people don't believe that it exists. There is no such thing as climate change.
And that's what I wanted to actually kind of, in terms of what is evil, how do we get a handle on truth and having truth motivate ourselves rather than just deny it, and then the battles of truth, and because you had many scientists that kind of objected to the fact that there's global warming, and as you say, the battle even still continues.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh absolutely. I was treated to Michael Eric Dyson was at Abyssinian Baptist Church yesterday, and I listened to I listened to his recording this morning, and it was very good. I thought it was interesting. Michael Eric Dyson on politics at Abyssinian. So,
and I think people are understanding that or feeling that, whether it's in the church setting, you mentioned Abyssinian, which has their new minister, whether it's in the church setting or your home setting or on the golf course, that this issue of our collective destiny is really I think it's on people's minds at some level.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, mighty gents. We're going to just wait for a few more seconds for a few more folks to join us, and then we're going to jump right in. Brother Wright, good to see you. Deshaun Robinson is going to present. Johnny Eric Williams is here. Johnny, good to see you back. Good to see you back from Nova Scotia. Not to put you on blast, but still, you know, I think I got to Hamden, which is just 3 minutes outside of New Haven. A few weeks ago, I had to renew my passport. But and Johnny George is going to present. Deshaun Robinson is going to present. I might even impose upon Cornell. He's not. I haven't announced him, but seeing his smiling face is. I know he's always one to respond to things. Malik Russell might be joining us as well. Jimmy Jones, Fred McKinney, Clifton Graves, and Kevin. Good to see you, man. And I appreciate our dialogue prior to us going live. It's 6:01. I want to just give a few more seconds, and we'll jump right in. And George, maybe I'll have you kick off, and Johnny will go next, and then Deshaun and whoever else is here. I was mentioning folks to George just before we kind of congregated, that this topic of evil has been really troubling my soul. So I hope everybody doesn't send me a bill for therapy, but I really, it's full transparency. I'm leaning on the mighty gents not to be troubled and get some sleep. Brother DeYoung, why don't you kick us off? It's 6:02, and again, we'll have some folks that might be joining in. And again, the format is we'll go like 4 or 5 minutes, and then a succession for the presenters, and then just have some discussion if we can. I know it's summertime, et cetera. So, and folks have things to do, and if it seems that after the hour or so that folks want to have another discussion as a follow up, that's something that's very easy to do. Would love to do it, and I'll be able to I'll send the link to folks to share and comment as well. If you have not received emails from me, email me at tomficklin at AOL.com, TOMFICKLIN at AOL.com, so that I can be sure to send you the link to the show. George, I'm not going to give acclamations or honorifics for everybody. Everybody here is a mighty gent, and I think that's sufficient. If you want to throw in a little bit about your background, that's fine, but bear in mind that you have 4 to 5 minutes. Brother DeYoung, you're up.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to express one of life's evils, and it's not new. It's been around. Lord knows it's been around for a while now, but interestingly enough, it was a question on Facebook on the computer a number of months ago, and I responded with the same answer that I'm going to give this evening. It's greed, and it rears its ugly head time and time again, and one of those things that we wish there was a solution to. We wish that, or I wish that people saw a need to circumvent that evil, or to see the world, or see humanity in a different light, such that we could all find a way to live together. But I guess that's my optimism coming through. And the reality is that someone said to me earlier today, greed is the source, the source of many evils, and people just want to acquire more, whatever it is, whether it's money, whether it's food. The sad thing is that I've also said for a while that, you know, this country could feed the world. But instead of that, we decided to keep it all to ourselves or to shut it down. I mean, how many farms, how many farm owners, how many farmers are paid not to yield crops? And there are people on the planet that are hungry. So unfortunate. Give me a few minutes and take care. My granddaughter is with me. She's
we'll get her on the next. We'll get her on the next show.
On the next show. But yeah, greed in all of this manifestation. I mean, politics, money, food, oil, and it just behooves me that it seems to be so encompassing. It's in everything. And I wonder, and this ripe old age that I've reached, I've seen it, and I don't see an end to it necessarily. So I just don't.
Let me give you 30 more seconds.
I'm good. I'm good. I appreciate the 30 seconds, but I'm good. I don't.
All right. So you'll pass your 30 seconds on to. Let's go to Brother Deshaun Robinson. You have 4 to 5 minutes plus George's 30 seconds.
I may recoup my 30 seconds later on, though. I don't know.
There you go, Indian givers.
I'm sure I will.
Yeah,
Dr. Deshaun Robinson, good evening.
Thank you very much. Good evening to you, and good evening to everybody else who's on the call. Thank you very much for the invite. It's a very interesting question because what is evil? My definition, coming from somebody who likes to look at, you know, how the mind works and how it controls behaviors. For me, I think evil is intentions. Depending on the intentions you have can be evil. There's things that happen, so your behaviors that you do can look like evil, but what are the intentions behind them? So that's what I look at as the solid definition of evil, and I'll give an example of what I'm saying. If I leave my house tomorrow and I was to end somebody's life, you think of that action as being evil. But what was my intentions for that? If I left the house with a weapon and my intentions leaving the house were to find somebody, whether specific or random, and just end their life, that's an evil intention. And it shows my behavior to be evil. But if I left the house with a weapon and somebody attacked me and in defending myself, I ended their life, would you consider me being evil? Probably wouldn't. If I seen somebody else getting harmed and I tried to defend them, would that be evil if I ended somebody's life in defending a third person? It wouldn't be. The action isn't what's evil. The person isn't what evil, but the intention they have are what's considered evil. And I appreciate looking at it that way. And I just say, you know, you can have bad people do bad things, but it doesn't necessarily be evil, but you can have bad people do evil things. You can have a good person do something bad. It just depends on what was the intentions behind the action. And that's just how I define it, just from the space of the way I think. Evil is intentions. And whatever intention you have, if your intention is to do something to destroy, harm, or tear down, that's an evil. That's something I consider evil.
Excellent. Kevin Staten, good to see you, man. It's been a while.
Good to see you too, Tom.
I enjoyed our conversations prior, so I'm anxious to kind of hear what you have to say. And Kevin he kind of grilled me on the process and the procedure and the order of things. And I appreciate that, because that means he's a very serious person. I said I wasn't going to give an intro for anybody else, but my spirit tells me to just publicly kind of salute you, Kevin, for taking this so seriously. Good to see you, man. Let's hear what you have to say.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tom. And thank you to everybody on the panel. I got my stopwatch so I can make sure I time myself.
Excellent.
So for me, it's when we're talking about evil, I look at three things: the deceptive nature of evil, the dynamic nature of evil, and the delusional nature of evil. And in doing so, in my theological training, I always start with a scripture. And some of you will know this very well in certain circles, is very well known. Psalms 144 and 1. Praise be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war, my fingers for battle. If you Google that scripture and you type the word in the same search box, AR-15 rifle, you will get a plethora of different things. Like you can get this scripture printed on your AR rifle gun. You can get it on your barbecue grill. You can get it on t-shirts. You can get it on pairs of shorts. It's an ongoing theme. And this is because what we have when I talk about the deceptive nature of evil is nationalism masquerading as religion. So when we talk about groups who use religion to dictate who's evil and who's not, and so there's a decree. There's a group called the Watchman Foundation, and they're very interwoven with this whole Project 2025. And they have a decree where they call themselves Patriots of Faith. And they basically, because of our covenant with God, we are equipped to and delegated by him to destroy every attempted advance of the enemy. And it becomes this whole thing of, well, who's the enemy? So it's tough to look at this because evil is so dynamic and it moves and changes and alters so much. So I know, many of you, are from academia. So you know that, if we want to be nice, we can say we're 70 years behind with Brown versus Board of Education. But some would say we're 147 years behind with the Hayes-Tilden Compromise of 1877. So the reason why I use Brown versus Board of Education as a touch point is that after the decision, they, as some of us know, Jerry Falwell Sr. And others developed a bunch of Christian private schools to counter desegregation. And so in creating these schools, they provide parents with alternatives. Now, fast forward to me as a public educator, year 29, how have they changed that from a dynamic? Well, people realize you don't have to pay all the money for a private school. What you can do is you can vote and take over your school board. If you control the Board of Education, you control the curriculum. You also control who you hire as a superintendent, who also controls who are the principals and who are the teachers. And by doing so, you can set the policy in a public school setting. So that's what we've seen happening. And that's why I say we're like 70 years behind, because this has started and we're seeing, the results of this. So you see this whole thing where when schools back during Falwell's time started losing their tax exempt status and they had to switch gears, they focused on secular humanism, and now it's CRT. And what I tell people is I've been a teacher for almost 30 years and I've never had a workshop on critical race theory, because we only do learning theories in education. That's constructivist, behaviorist. We've never done a legal theory. I've never had a workshop on a legal theory. So, and it's interesting because the dynamic is people start calling these people crazy or insane. And when you think about it, they're crazy like a fox because they're playing chess, and some of us don't even have a chessboard. So, they keep yelling checkmate and taking over these school boards. And now, we're looking at an impending situation where I know Project 2025 has a whole thing of eliminating all civil rights education and everything that falls under DEI. And I can tell you as a librarian, the first thing they do is they go after the Rosa Parks books, the Dr. King books, the LGBTQ plus books as well, but they really target our books. And I'll end with another scripture before I run out of time. This is 2 Corinthians 11, 14 and 15, or as a past president would call it, 2 Corinthians. It says, and no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light, it is not surprising then if his servants also masquerade as servants of righteousness, and will be what their actions deserve. So I think when we look at the dynamic and the delusional and just the deceptive nature of evil, we have to look at the fact that people have basically flipped what is evil and what is good.
Excellent, excellent. Brother Malik Russell, haven't seen you in person for a while. We've done some shows together. Good to see you on the call. Let's hear from you. If you're still there.
Okay. Yep.
All right.
Thank you, Tom.
There you go, man. Good to see you.
All right. Good to see you too. Let me find my document. I wrote down a few notes, just regarding evil, what I thought about it. And and my start is a little bit different because I'm looking at, how do things exist in the universe? Nothing in the universe exists by itself. Everything is complementary, a piece of the puzzle. And looking at that, that's philosophy emerging from the ancient Egyptians, right? They looked at the creation of the world through complementary parts or ideas like light and dark, masculine, feminine, hot and cold, wet and dry, earth, air, etc. So when we look at the term evil, what are we really talking about? What is the opposite of evil? And most people would say, it's good, right? But I'm not sure if I agree with it. I'm thinking of looking at evil. I don't know if it's opposite or polar opposite is good. I think its polar opposite might be sacred or holy. So I think sacred or holy might be the polar opposite of good of evil as opposed to good. But regardless of whether we look at it as sacred, holy, or we look at it simply as good, as the opposite end of what is evil, the question is, how do we determine what is evil without determining what is good? And can evil exist without good? So, for example, we might look at a situation where we take an oath of not killing people. It's in the 10 Commandments, right? So we consider that good, and we consider killing people evil. Then what happens when we become a vegetarian? Now, when we become a vegetarian, now we're looking at animals. Maybe killing animals is evil. And then what happens when we join the army, where we have to kill every day to defend ourselves? Then the idea of killing is no longer evil. Maybe we're looking at something like killing non-combatants or killing innocent people, and that becomes evil. Because good and evil are both same energy. We're talking different poles of the polarity. One over this direction, one over that direction. And oftentimes our sense of evil, is really derived from our religious beliefs, enforced by community values, and then as we grow in the world, it starts to change and evolve. But oftentimes, what we consider evil has a religious connotation associated with it, and depending on what our religious views are, that determines, our evil. But as human beings, we're constantly growing and evolving. So what happens, as we become older and we begin to evolve, and our views and values change, and oftentimes our ideas of evil, what is evil changes. We look at water. Water is great. Water is wonderful, right? What happens when it floods your whole community, tears down your house? Then does water become evil? What about fire? Fire is great for for grilling. In the summer, we just had the 4th of July. We love to grill those burgers, right? So then at that time, fire is great, but what happens when it burns down your house? Even in terms of religion, we look at, religion and we say, okay, the opposite of religion, non-belief is evil, but religion is good until you accept another religion, right? Once you leave one religion, you accept another religion, then you become a backslider. And that new religion that you follow becomes evil to the people that you used to run with and used to believe in. So evil, so it's not simply a static idea that evil exists. It grows with us, and it's often impacted, by our religious belief. And the thing to consider also is the fact that some people, like say myself, do not follow spiritual practices that that endorse the concept or the construct of evil. I might follow a system that believes each individual is here to fulfill a destiny, and things that we consider, often other religions consider evil, we simply consider blockages that are designed to challenge you and to help you grow. So evil is more of a self-determined thing. And the way I look at evil, and the way I define it, is more of a self-determined thing where we violate our own internal codes, things that we believe, that we know to be right. And then when we violate those, knowing that this is what we believe. So if I believe that nonviolence is good, if I go and kill someone, then that determines that I just committed an evil act. So I think the idea of evil really rests with each individual in terms of what is their own value system, and are they intentionally involved in actions that damage that value system, that harm innocent people or individuals, that do things that that are really reflections of the golden rule: do unto others. If you feel like this is something that I don't want to experience myself, then you turn around and do that to somebody else. So I'll stop there and pass it to the next speaker.
Excellent. Dr. Johnny Williams, thanks for joining. And Johnny was kind enough to kind of share a few comments that I shared with people already previously, and for him to kind of weigh in once again is deeply appreciated. Dr. Williams, okay. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, all right. Thanks for inviting me, and nice meeting you all again and being on this panel with you. For me, I approach this notion of evil from the fact that it's relative, right? I think Malik went into some of this already, right? That it's like the term killing, right? I mean, if you want to, if the religion says thou should not kill, but the fact is that there are many instances when you can kill. You can kill in terms of self-defense, right? You can kill in terms of being in war, right? On and on and on. Right? There are ways in which killing another human being is okay, right? So when I think about evil, I think about it in these kinds of relative terms. That is, it's a creation of the societies that we have organized to live in. What is evil is determined by the societies that we live in. That is, as again, Malik was saying about the value systems that we are embedded within, right? Whether or not something will be determined to be evil or not. In the United States, for instance, folks do not have a problem with the fact that we are a capitalist society, right? That depend upon taking from other people, even if it kills those other people, right? Even if we, go into jobs, we work every day to make ends meet, even if that working in those jobs kills us, right? The capitalist doesn't see it as a problem. That's just good business not to pay you a decent salary to live off of. Because the capitalists want you to subsist so they can continue to make money, right? So you got that kind of evil. But as I said in the recording, the evils can vary, right? There's a moral foundation for evil, right? And that is, in the various societies determine what our morality, our moral center will be, right? And depending on how, again, like we organize society. And in our society, doing what we do in terms of exploiting people and taking their stuff is not considered to be evil. But there are folks within our society who do see it as being evil, right? Because it creates harm, harm like premature death. Right? And this is really applicable to Black people because we're constantly dying way earlier than we should compared to those who exploit us, who live a long life because they're not being exploited and demeaned psychologically and physically as we are. Right? So we got that going on, right? So that's a moral kind of evil. I think that's natural evil. And again, some of you all have said this already. That is the things that just naturally occur, like hurricanes. We're having one today down in Texas, right? And it's wreaking havoc, and it's killing people and so forth, and harming animals and everything else, right? It doesn't care, right? And that's really just a natural occurrence. It could be seen as evil, but how were those hurricanes created, right? We know now that those hurricanes are associated with the way we have organized our economic system and political system. It's called global climate change, right? So it's not just purely natural. That is something that human beings have had an effect upon to create that, to cause harm on other human beings. And we can designate who that enemy is who created this problem. That is the United States and other, European countries, capitalist societies, right? So I mean, it's evil. It's creating harm. The sea levels are rising, and people are losing their homes and so forth, right? So you got all kinds of things going on like that, and then you got the last one, the metaphysical evil, as I spoke about, in the video itself too, and that is that it's the problem of evil. It's a religious question, a spiritual question, and again, Malik has talked a little bit about this, but it's a spiritual kind of question about what is evil, what isn't. If there is a God, if there is a God that is all good and all knowing, why is there so much evil? As I said before, this was about a question that St. Augustine raised way, way, way back centuries ago, right? We still have that problem. This is a problem of theodicy, right? That's what it's called. So this is where I stand on this. So evil basically is something that is a structural kind of creation, right? For me, it's not just an individual kind of problems. Individuals are not born evil, right? I mean, this is something that we are immersed in and that we acquire and we, take on as our own and act upon. This is the way I look at it. And that's the end of my comments.
All right. Brother Wright, let me kind of see if I can impose upon you. We hadn't confirmed, and really good to see you, but we hadn't confirmed your presenting. But given some of our previous conversations and the various blogs and the videos that you've done, I'm comfortable in asking you to kind of share as well, if you're so willing. Cornell, you still there?
Yes, I am, but no, I'm not. Thank you.
No, you're not willing. All right. Well, I'll lean on you again in terms of a commentary, if you so choose. I think I've covered everybody that I've asked to kind of present, to kind of kick us off. We have about 20, 25 more minutes, so who'd like to jump in to comment on what you've heard, maybe expound upon something that you haven't heard, or just clarify, or ask even one of the presenters to elaborate any more if they so choose. Anybody like to kind of jump off first?
Hey, Tom, it's Ray. I'll jump off.
Ray Anderson, good to see you, man.
Good to see you too, Tom. Thanks for the invite. Incredible panel here. Haven't heard anything I disagree with. Multifaceted. It's kind of like light. When you put it through a prism, it turns into a lot of different colors. As I see evil doing the same thing. So what's resonating with me is that since I am a human, I am trapped in this, if you will, mechanism of human consciousness. I am limited in my understanding about evil to that framework. And that leads me to a more spiritual view of evil. And I look back historically, we can go back 6,000 years in human history, and there's one common element of things. There's always been wars. There's always been one group trying to dominate another group. We could call it evil. We could call it whatever we want to call it. I had my eyes open when I took a South American cruise for 31 days and found out about the 500 different indigenous groups of people that magically disappeared the South American continent, how Pizarro and Cortez with 160 men could go into a village of Incas, a village of Aztecs, and wipe out 10,000 warriors. Granted, they were aided by smallpox. Granted, they were aided by internal divisions within the empire. Granted, they were aided similarly to what happened in the slave trade, other tribes assisting in what happened. And I look at that and say, this is just the way we tend to function as human beings. So what's the core? What, in my mind, spiritually, what is the core? What is the vortex of what I feel is really contributing to it? And I don't know. Again, I'm limited within my human consciousness, but there's three key areas. One of them is self-righteousness. When we get into a point where we think we know something that others don't, and we see a lot of this playing out politically now. We heard critical race, all this kind of stuff. It's about thought control. We don't want you to think certain things. Well, now we're looking at a vortex of what I think is one of the trinities of evil. Another one is control. You just want to control the way other people think, control what they do, enslave them, control what their day-to-day work effort contributes to. And then the third, and I think one of the biggest ones, is separation. Now, if you really get into Buddhism, that's one of the things they say, the original sin and all that is about separation. Well, separation from what? So we're here a community. I gotta believe, and I don't want to get into religion, but I do believe that religion does define our conscious perceptions of what evil really is. But I do believe that there's a spark within us. And you can look at a philosophy and say, well, what's the purpose of life and the meaning of life? And, the Eastern mystics say, well, it's becoming one with that spark, if you will, at a conscious level, consciousness. But what we all are fighting is this separation. And it keeps all of us away from realizing we're really all part of the same large living organism. And to the degree that we can understand that, I think we start to fight evil. To the degree that we tend to go along the pathways of separation and make up names to define each other and all the things we do, that to me is kind of one of the things that contributes to what I would call evil. So it's a very complicated thing, but it's resonant in me in the human consciousness of, I'll say a comment here. If there is a God, and, the Judeo-Christian view is that, we were one, that we could live eternally, that our spirit lives eternally. And if that's the case, I don't know that God defines what's good or evil as much as our consciousness does. That's where I'm at on it.
Ray, I saw your minister this morning, Reverend Perry. So
good.
So it's good to see you. Any other comments, folks? Let's kind of weigh in and chop it up, as they say. And Ray, thanks for kind of spontaneously kind of sharing. I appreciate that.
I just want to jump in really quickly because I think
Brother Kevin Staten. All right, please.
Yeah, there's currently is streaming free on Tubi, TUBI, and it's also a book that came out in 2021 by Randall Balmer out of Dartmouth. It's called Bad Faith. And Bad Faith is an in-depth look at Christian nationalism. I would say if you watch the documentary, it'll be the best hour and 28 minutes you spend because it really deals with this concept called dominionism. And it's something that we, in the next coming months, we don't have a choice in terms of having to deal with it, because dominionism is this concept that the nation should be governed by Christians based on their interpretation of biblical principles. And that is exactly is detailed extensively in Project 2025. And so if that man gets in, you know, you're really going to see these different groups, and many of them have contributed to it. But the film, the documentary Bad Faith, it really takes you in depth. And for me, it was special because a year before he passed away, Dr. James Cone, who people know from Black theology, Black liberation theology, had a chance to look over my research. And, you know, I was the typical young grad student, you know, but I had enough sense to just listen instead of talk a lot. You know, certain conversations, it should be 1% you talking and 99% you listening. And what he told me, because my thesis centers around the paradigm shift in the African American church after the death of Dr. King, and what we see now, and he said, Kevin, start reading on Christian nationalism. Start looking at these groups and their plan, and you'll understand what happened to the African American church. You really need to look at Bad Faith, the documentary. You have no idea how many millions of armed folks with arsenals. We're in Connecticut. We have stringent gun laws. You saw, I mean, you know, Sandy Hook was a taste of, you know, they just had lines like Disney World going to buy these AR-15 assault rifles. And, you know, so Bad Faith, I would say, please, if you're not going to read the book, please watch that documentary, because it really, I wish they showed it in every single church. I wish community centers showed it, because people, to me, it's the ultimate thing to get people out to vote.
Excellent. Who else would like to share?
I'd like to hop in.
Brother Malik Russell.
Yeah, because, you know, the way I look at it is religion sometimes can, you know, sometimes it can be a crutch. And sometimes religion is, for me, I think that people choose religions or find religions that are reflective of their state of consciousness. So you can have the same Bible, and that one Bible that talks about, you know, treating everyone equally, turning the other cheek, etc. You know, but the slave masters, they had the same Bible. They had the same Bible that the enslaved had. So it was the same belief system that was interpreted according to, I think, each individual's state of consciousness. And so you could take an individual, I think I wrote this in one of my books, you can take an individual, you can place them as the head of the prison. Now, if this individual has a free-minded consciousness, then that prison somehow begins to transform itself into a university. You have access to information, books, opportunities to learn, etc. And then you can take an individual who may have been a warden, and you can place him as the head of a church. And suddenly that church becomes more prison-like. Suddenly you can't do this anymore, you can't do that. Everything is a judgment. Everything must be punished. So I think that the belief systems that we choose are often a reflection of our state of consciousness. And so I think at the root is that our consciousness has to evolve in order for us to begin to combat what is considered evil or bad or not good. Just like, you know, but I think so, you know, just as Johnny touched on earlier, I think it has to be a part of a society, a societal push to raise the level of consciousness. So it can't just be individuals. So when you have societies that raise the level of consciousness, you have situations that are more humane and more human, more community, more collective. And so I'll stop there.
Excellent. Brother Norman Forster, I see you on the call, and no pressure in terms of commenting, but you and I had a good, you reached out to me just from a friendly brotherly standpoint, just to see how I was doing last week. So I was really pleased to see if you're here and if you're on the call this evening, if you'd like to weigh in or share a few comments. And good to see you. And Norman and I are celebrating our birthdays in the next 10 or so days. So you can shout out to us. I'm a little younger than Norman, but that's another another story. Brother Forster.
But I'm still learning from you, Tom, though.
We're as Malik just mentioned, we're learning from one another.
No, I have a disagreement. On anything any of the brothers said. I think society dictates what's considered normal behavior and what's not normal behavior, and each person, I think, will decide if they want to abide by that theory or that construct or not. So, for me, I do place a lot of faith in my God and my religion. So that's defining. And I say the Bible for me still is what I use to define in my life what I consider evil and not evil.
Norm, let me break protocol. I said to everybody that I wasn't going to interrogate or ask questions as a follow-up, but again, I've been known to kind of contradict myself more than once and during more than one conversation. You've dealt with finances and greed and money for most of your life in a very managed, prosperous and beneficial way. Any comments about how that issue of and Dr. Williams' reference to capitalism thing? Any thoughts about the juxtaposition between money and greed and evil?
Interesting. Well, I can say money, again, is a tool. I've seen some wealthy clients, not only of my clients or of a firm, and I work for a large investment firm, that have used money to do very good things for the society at large. And I've seen others that, quite frankly, tell me they don't really give a hoot about what's going on next door or across the block from them. They just really want me, or as well as my other colleagues, to get them the best return so they can make more money. So, again, that's everyone's going to make the decision that's best in their consciousness for them. But I will say this, I'm just not an advocate for accumulating wealth. I've seen people do some wonderful things for their families and loved ones, and they never knew they'd be in a position to do that just from building wealth. So, I always tell friends, and they know me as the guy that always says, like, money, it's better to have than not need than to need and not have.
Excellent. We have about 15 minutes, folks. Let's kind of keep it going.
Let me say this, Tom. I'm not going off about people making money. Money itself is a social creation. It's not real. It has nothing that backs it up except for the U.S. government or governments rather than gold. It used to be on the gold standard. But I'm talking about systems, right? Systems that human beings create, institutions. I'm a sociologist, so you can get where I'm coming from. I'm coming from that point of view. And so when I look at, say, religion is just a creation of human people, of human groups, right? That have created these various kinds of religion around the world. It's like one of the first books I ever wrote. It was called The African American Religion and the Civil Rights Movement in Arkansas. And in that book, in the preference, I laid out I was really talking to my sister-in-laws because they're very, very religious. And that is, they have this tremendous faith. And that's something that I don't challenge. People's faith is their faith, and they believe what they believe, right? But I do challenge religiosity, the practice of that religion based on those values, those beliefs that they hold, and so forth, right? And my sister-in-laws, because I don't go to church, right? I'm not a religious person that is going to church. I'm more a spiritual person myself, right? I believe that we're all interconnected to other human beings and all life on this planet, and that this planet is a living thing that gives all us life as well as the sun that we revolves around. Right? So that's my take on that. But since the institution itself is a creation of human groups, human beings are then deciding what is important as a group, what is important to be focused on in that particular human group, right? What is morally valued, what isn't, right? Those kinds of things, right? And in our society, all I'm simply saying is that we're in a society that values making money above all else. It doesn't care if we're all interconnected and that it destroys life. It kills, right? And that's what it's designed to do. The United States itself is a creation of this kind of exploitative relationship, colonialism, imperialism, right? And then all of those are designed to exploit other human groups as well as the planet itself, even if it kills us. This is the key, right? And so it is, from my perspective as a sociologist, evil as hell, right? There are other forms of capitalism that are not operating like that. The capitalism that we have today, that is ruled by the wealthy few, basically controls everything in our lives. And I say this and I'll stop. The food that we eat is basically controlled by three corporations owned by a few people who own shares in them. And a lot of the food is killing us, right? So are they evil? From my perspective, hell yeah, they're evil, right? And that needs to stop. And we need to take control of it so that we can, since we're all interconnected in trying to make us survive as a species, help us survive as a species, we should do something about that and stop that from happening.
Excellent, excellent. Dr. Robinson, Deshaun,
Well,
my instinct tells you that you have something to say.
I do, but I want to give Mr. Wright a chance because he had his hand up, and I wanted to.
Is this the same Mr. Wright that declined the offer of about 20 minutes ago? I'm just curious.
It is.
It is. It's the same one.
It is the very same one.
The same one. Oh, well, by all means, please weigh in.
Well, thank you, and Deshaun, thank you for your consideration. I'll pass the mic back to you in just a moment, but certainly what everyone has said, I agree with. And just as a partial summary, it appears to me that it's power, control, and greed, which are, if you will, the engines behind evil. And then evil then is the tool that's used in order to kind of implement those things when necessary. And then the other thing I wanted to just say regarding what Kevin had said in regards to 2025 is that we have to be concerned that 2025 is not only designed for this election, it's designed, if you hear them talk about it, for any conservative, the next conservative president, whomever that is. And so that to me says this is a long war. And so we'd have to steel ourselves for that entire eventuality because it's more than a 4-year cycle. They've been working on this thing for decades. And so we kind of know how that's going to resolve for things that we consider to be good. Thank you very much.
Just before we go back to Dr. Deshaun. Just before we go back to Deshaun, Brother Wright, share a little bit about, in terms of a deep breath as we kind of wind down. You spent time, and again, I'm breaking protocol about asking individuals direct questions, but my spirit tells me in terms of your work with organizations, your work with people, your work with systems, your skill set, your anecdotal research and your actual research. Share a little bit about where you see us going as a society, as people. Where's the hope thread that you can kind of imagine? You've seen organizations self-destruct. You've seen organizations also revive. And you've helped organizations regenerate themselves. Share a little bit about that, if you would, given your 30, 40 years of being passionate, constructive, and dedicated to organizations can be beneficial rather than harmful.
Well, if I would answer that in two ways. One is I would go with Johnny's earlier comment saying that not only are we killing ourselves with regards to the food we eat, we're killing our entire planet that we live on. And if you think about it from one perspective, I heard a number of years ago, this is our only spaceship. And if we destroy our spaceship, there's nowhere else for us to go. And so we're not taking very good care of our spaceship in regards to any measure. And to me, it's all being driven by greed. Okay, the oil companies are telling us that climate change doesn't work. Any combination of people have their hands in it. And I thought it was very interesting about how was it Blackwell, I think the largest private equity firm in the world, determined a few years back, maybe like 5 years ago, that every financial decision was going to have a climate change impact associated with their evaluation analysis, which to me, that was the intersection between capitalism and climate change, which meant that it was then real. So I think that's key. And then just for a little bit of humor, I just, to the earlier comment about how the United States could in fact change the world, think about how the world would be, if Texas and Florida was like California.
Okay.
Change the whole world.
Wow.
Thank you.
We have about 5 minutes, Dr. Deshawn. Kind of take 2 or 3 minutes if you would, and then anyone else has a final comment. And again, I don't want to belabor the point. We can certainly do this again. Let's see what emerges. I'll send out the link. Kind of email me if you'd like to kind of bring us together and invite others to move ahead, but no pressure on anyone. Dr. Robinson.
Well, I would just say too, I kind of really like the conversation. I've had these conversations with my wife, very spiritual person. And a lot of what I heard sums up into spirituality, your religion, your consciousness, what you think. And in having that conversation with her, I realized, as a Christian, there's many different types of Christians. They say the Bible is supposed to be something that is your relationship with Jesus Christ. So when you think about it that way, it's still you're your own religion within your own religion. So how do you think? How do you feel? One of the definitions that was said, I heard by Brother Malik, Brother Williams, and I know Mr. Staten mentioned religion as well. And one thing that we use one of the examples of killing as an example of evil. We can be killing our planet, we can be killing this, we're killing certain things. And I had this conversation with my wife, and my father-in-law is a pastor, my grandfather-in-law is a bishop. And I had the conversation, I had said to them, when we look at the Bible and the things that we read, and we looked at how it was transcribed and how we interpret it, killing itself is not evil. And then when we look in there, we see thou shalt not kill. It was translated to thou shalt not kill. It originally was thou shalt not murder. And if you think about the difference between killing and murder, Jesus killed fish to feed. That's not evil. But when Cain murdered Abel, that was evil. So when you look at the words and the intentions behind the words and how we use them and what we internalize them all, and I had this conversation with my wife many, many, many times. But when I look at it that way, to kill something is not evil, but to murder something is. And what's the difference between killing and murdering? Murder is to kill without justification. So the intention behind what it is. If you're like you said, Mr. Wright, there's a select few that control the food market, how we do certain things in the world. What is the reason behind it? If I'm going out here stealing and trying to do certain things to survive, to feed my family or to feed others, or I'm trying to build $1 billion empire to help others, I wouldn't consider it evil. But if I'm doing it for money and greed, then I would. So I really enjoyed the conversation and what everybody said. And like I said, it took me back to the underlying root, your religions, how you have your perceptions and what you choose to believe those perceptions are. And that's what I wanted to add into this.
Excellent. Latimer Williams, I don't think we've met much, but just for you to kind of invest the time to be on the call, I guess wanted to kind of extend the invitation to see if you wanted to make a few comments at all as we kind of conclude.
Thank you for that. I'm Latimer Williams. I'm good friends with Kevin Staten. We've known each other over 40 years, and I'm just up here supporting him. And I'm actually enjoying this conversation. But I won't take up any time, but I think inherent evil is just what we're seeing going on today in America. They're showing us the blueprint. They're hiding them, but they're not even hiding anymore. They're just showing us what their intentions are, and we need to pay attention. There is no side to pick anymore. You have to pick a side, and right now that side is the evil side, and we have to pick against it.
Thank you. Gents, unless there's something burning on somebody's mind, we want to include, again, I wanted to be disciplined and just use just about an hour. Obviously, evil is not going to go away after we end this call, but maybe it can be diminished by our collective and individual activities and our content communion. So I want to really thank everyone for kind of weighing in. If there's something on somebody's mind burning, I'm willing to extend it for another minute or so.
I'd like to say something, Tom. I want to make some context for this Project 25 thing. The creators of that is the Heritage Foundation. It's a very right-wing, basically racist and everything else you can consider think tank in DC that created this document. It was also, if you some of us are old enough to remember Newt Gingrich and his contract with America, contract on America. That's what I would call it, right? It also came from the Heritage Foundation. And Barack Obama's Obamacare, right? The health care reform is actually a Heritage Foundation creation too, which basically does nothing but create more clients for the health insurance industry itself. So, I mean, the country itself, as I tried to intimate to you, a country that is founded on genocide and kidnapping and enslavement of people, right? And exploitation of other world and conquering of other folk, in North American stuff. This country is fundamentally about evil. It's a gigantic oppressive machine, right? And the side to choose is humanity, right? There is no Democrat or Republican. It's just both of those people are the same end of the business end, right? They're the same people, the same two people in the same pot. So really, the choice is: do you choose humanity, or do you choose these fools who will basically take us to extinction? The planet will still be here. We'll be gone. Okay.
I'm gonna end on that note. Johnny and all the mighty gents, thank you so much.
As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission. I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains, haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up. Fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHH LP 103.5